Thank you, Madam President. So in the 2024 budget, the mayor has proposed adding an additional police academy recruit class from the usual 2 classes to 3 that year for a total cost of $8.3 million. And just for context, one of the most nagging vacancies that we have in the city is actually for caseworkers in the Department of Human Services, but we aren't budgeting many millions of dollars for that. The cost for 164 recruits in 2024 is on page 625 of the budget book. The total cost is about $8.3 million. The general fund portion of that is $7.8 million. Because the police department has only a 6% sworn vacancy rate, 911 calls are down, according to Department of Safety data, and major crime is down in Denver, according to Department of Safety data. That is what the statistics are telling us right now in fall of 2023. I think the timing is right to consider shifting this funding to the STAR program. Because STAR only responds to 35% of appropriate 911 calls, adding to that program creates a one-to-one reduction in calls that police must respond to. So a 911 call is going to get a response. It can get a response from STAR if we grow that program. It can get a response from police if we fail to grow that program. And we know that STAR is far more effective in the kind of response that is needed for those calls than an armed police responder. With respect to the idea of adding an additional recruiting class, I'd like to point out that the Denver auditor just in June of this year expressed serious concern with the agency's recruiting strategy. They said the recruiting unit's current program lacks critical details on how the unit plans to achieve goals and communicate its progress. The recruiting unit doesn't have metrics data or a finalized plan to track the number of people applying for positions. Their staffing model is based on data from over a decade ago and does not align with best practices, saying that staffing should be based on officers' current workloads. And the police department doesn't have effective strategies to understand and address low retention. DPD recruit programs have had very low graduation rates of percentages in the 50s for the last couple of classes. So I ask all of us up here to consider, given that we are currently given that DPD officers also, both according to data and anecdotally, along with many others in Department of Safety, including firefighters, including the 911 call center, spend a huge amount of their time responding to calls, as we just heard, about people living in tents, campers, RVs, in parks, and on sidewalks. If we succeed in our push as a city to drastically reduce unsheltered homelessness, I am confident that the reduction in the Department of Safety workload will more than offset expected retirements and that current 6% vacancy rate. At the very least, I'd like to wait and see before we pour millions of scarce dollars into a recruiting blitz. And instead, I want us to consider funding, again, a program that takes 911 calls on a one-to-one basis and responds to them in a way that is more successful for those kinds of calls than a police response. I ask my colleagues to vote yes on this amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor.